In this video, we will talk about trig models. The height of the tide above sea level on January 24th at Cape Town is modeled approximately by h of t, so this is the height, is equal to 3 sine of pi t over 6 meters, where t is the number of hours after midnight. Graph this function for domain given 0 to 24. In order to graph a function, we need to talk about an amplitude and period. Amplitude is the a value, the number that's in front of the sign, so amplitude will be 3. Period would be, since this is a sine function, it would be 2 pi over b. b in this case would be pi over 6. So 2 pi over 6 is going to give you 12. So we know the period of this function is 12, so if it's going from 0 to 24, we're going to get 2 full cycles. In one of the ways to graph this is first show 12 and 24, then pick out the numbers that are going to work nicely. For example, since you're dividing it by 6, if you have a t equals to 0, 0 over any number will always be a 0. So sine of 0 will be 0. So 3 times a 0 will be 0. Next number you're going to plug it in is 3, because when you plug in t is equal to 3, you get a pi times 3 over 6, which is going to be pi over 2. And we know at sine pi over 2 has a value of 1. So 3 times 1 will be 3. When sine of 6 pi over 6, that's sine of pi, which is again 0, your y value will be a 0. So you would be plugging in another 9, which is going to give you 3 pi over 2 for sine. Sine of 3 pi over 2 is negative 1, so you'll be at negative 3. At 12, sine of 2 pi is 0, so you'll be back on 0 again. Now that you got a full cycle, after that, it has to repeat. So from 12 to 24 is a repeat of 0 to 12. B, when is high tide and what is the maximum height? High tide is at 3 a.m. and 15, which is equivalent of 3 p.m. The height of these will be 3 meters. So max at 3 a.m. and 3 p.m., the max height of that will be 3 meters. C, what is the height of the tide at 2 p.m.? 2 p.m. is equivalent of 14, but 14 should be a repeat of 2, so whichever you find first, it would be the same answer. So if I plug in 2 for sine of 2t over 6, 2t over 6 is equivalent of pi over 3, and we know at sine of pi over 3 is equal to root 3 over 2. So when you multiply that by 3, the height of the tide at 2 p.m. is 3 root 3 over 2. D, a ship can cross the harbor provided the tide is at least 2 meters above the sea level. When is crossing possible on January 24th? So in order for a ship to cross, it needs to be 2 meters and above. That means when you find the intersections at 2, which are going to be 4 of the intersections on this graph, it needs to be above the 2 meters. So that's between these two intersections and these two intersections. You would find this by graphing y is equal to 3 sine of pi x over 6 and y2 is equal to 2. Once you find the intersections, it should come out to be 1.39, 4.61, 13.39, and 16.61. How do you convert 0.36 hours into minutes? By multiplying 0.39 by 60, which gives you about 23. So you can convert these decimals into an hours and minutes by multiplying the decimals again by 60. So your final answer should be 1:23 a.m., 4:37 a.m., 1:23 p.m., 4:37 p.m.